you say all intelligence is collective intelligence, which I think is really great. I think the emphasis, a lot of people need to hear that. The other thing, and I think you just touched on it a bit, is that, or maybe in our previous discussions you did too, a lot of people think of the brain as having this like exalted status of that the brain can do all these things that other parts of the body can't do. But and it's in this paper as well, and other papers too. But sometimes there's memory stored outside the brain, in some of the research that you've done. Can you give us a sense of what does the brain do that's actually different than the body cells? So yeah, so what does it have that, say, other parts of the body can't do?
Yeah. Yeah. So as much as I try to lean on the commonalities between brain and other tissues, I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's a reason why we have brains. Brains give us extra features that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, the most obvious one is speed. So neural bioelectricity is way faster than developmental bioelectricity, and I think that was part of an arms race at the beginning when things started moving around and trying to eat each other and avoid being eaten. Speed became of the essence. I mean, developmental biology, I mean, yes, you want to complete embryogenesis as quickly as you can, but it's not under the same speed constraint, I think, as actual behavior, three-dimensional behavior.
Yeah.
So there's speed and this idea. Then there are the point connections. So neurons can be incredibly long, and so if you want to make a directed connection from here to over there, without that neural architecture of having an axon that reaches all the way down, I mean, they can be meters long in some animals. Without that, the basic bioelectric system is cumbersome because it basically things spread as waves, or they propagate through the gap junctional milieu. It's not the same as right. So those are kind of the architectural things. I mean, a lot of the components are conserved. So ion channels, neurotransmitters, electrical synapses, all that stuff is conserved, but it's used in a different way, both for speed and for direct connections. And then there are the things that we know that are associated with brains that we haven't found anywhere else. So for just as a sort of high-end example is language, right? So I've seen no credible claims that the other organs in your body are using this kind of syntactic language structures that brains use. Not saying it's impossible. Who knows? Right. We might find some kind of syntax, but there isn't any evidence for that yet that I know of. So that I think. But other basic stuff is the same. Perceptual control and predictive coding and all kinds of that happens in all cells. I want to come back real quick because I do think this is important to something else that you said a minute ago about the collective intelligence and the fact that people need to hear that. So I want to just talk for a moment about what it is that I think they need to hear about it, because some people and I'm always fishing. Let's see if this helps at all. But I'm always fishing for a better way to make this point, and I don't know how effective this is. Some people get really kind of destabilized by these sorts of ideas because what they hear is, I'm not real. I'm an illusion, and there are lots of scientists that are pushing this narrative, right? So we are to blame for this. I'm not surprised that people have these ideas, but this idea that well we don't exist. You're a big pile of cells, and you're not really here, and it's all an illusion. And that's a really destabilizing idea. It's destabilizing on a personal level. It contributes to the loss of meaning. It contributes to societal issues. And so I want to just say what I think the lesson here is. When you see science like this, the lesson isn't that you are somehow devalued from what you thought you were, and that your the meaning of your life is reduced, and that your primary experience of being a coherent being with choice, with the responsibility of deciding what do you do next, that these things are now out the window somehow. I think that's the wrong conclusion to draw from any of this. The conclusion isn't that the majesty of the integrated mind is reduced. The right conclusion is, well, two things. One is that actually we just learned an amazing thing that matter can do. We didn't know that before. We thought dumb matter was just kind of dumb, and what we're learning now, we're not learning something that changes how we view ourselves. We're learning something that changes how we view matter, and this is something that I think Ian McGilchrist says as well, that we've underestimated certain kinds of matter. This idea that no, actually, and this is I know I've used this example before, but there's a scene in a lot of science fiction. Most recently, I saw it in Ex Machina, right, where the guy
Oh
starts
yeah, great movie.
right. Well, the guy starts cutting his arm because now he's worried that he's an android, right?
Right.
And I mean, yeah, a lot of people feel that way, but if you cut your arm or you go get a CT scan and they say, whoa, you know what, you're full of cogs and gears, the conclusion from that isn't, oh man, well, I guess I'm not as real as I thought, and I'm not, I guess I don't get to use my free will now, and that's not the answer. The conclusion should be, amazing, cogs and gears can give me my spiritual meaning, like amazing, I've just learned something about cogs and gears, great. So that's, I just want to be clear that I think this kind of analysis of what it is that we are, how we get here, the self-construction of the self from cells during embryogenesis and all that, isn't it doesn't have any negative implications for what you are and what you can do. Just the opposite. It sort of raises the remarkable magic of these binding principles that you say, wild, you can actually create a being that I know I am. I mean, that's the part that I think Descartes had exactly right. Apparently you can get there through this particular method, and there was I forget what it is, but there was also an old science fiction story where these aliens kind of land on Earth, and they find out that humans are basically made of meat, and they say that is the most disgusting, like you're telling me a pile of meat can have these exalted thoughts that we in our silicon implementations have? Like that there's no way, there's no way a pile of carbonaceous goo is going to have these kind of mathematical truths that we perceive with our silicon minds, and right, and it's all completely arbitrary. Somebody who doesn't want to find gears under their skin and cogs and things like that, why not? Because they've bought into the fact that proteins and RNA does it. Is that any more, why are you any happier with that? None of that is intrinsically any better than anything else. And so I think it's very important not to take the wrong message from all this kind of stuff, and to somehow dissolve your fundamental worth just because we've seen some of the parts that are under the hood. We knew there were going to be parts under the hood. In fact, I'll go one step further, and for the people who, right, because one thing that people sometimes say at this point is, you're right, you've just done a deconstruction of all materialism and none of it matters unless we're a soul. Yeah. So some people feel that way, that basically right, the proteins, the just like the gears, all no good. So the thing with that is, without even getting into the kind of the factual nature, but just think purely logically, fine, maybe you're a soul. What's the mechanism of the soul? There's going to be one. It's going to do something, and it's going to have some kind of features. If it doesn't have any, if it has no parts, then it can't change. Then you can't learn, you can't make decisions, you can't improve, you can't do anything. It's going to have it's going to have some kind of structure. Maybe I'll give it to you that maybe it's a completely different, so something material science has never seen before. Great, but it's still going to have some kind of descriptive laws that govern how it acts in whatever space it lives in. And then we're going to be back to the same. Somebody's going to say, but it's got rules that govern its behavior. That's not what I mean. But that's not enough to give me my magical feeling of so right. So we got to get over this. The non-material kind of way forward it doesn't help at all, and we have to get over the fact that finding mechanisms under this somehow robs the larger scale of its meaning. That's just sorry, that's a long diatribe, but that's what I wanted to say.
I had on Bobby Azarian, who's a cosmologist, and wrote a great book called The Romance of Reality. And he refers to this quite a bit, more in the sort of the deterministic lack of free will, but a similar kind of vein, that a lot of people feel like as soon as you start to explain this stuff, it's like you're explaining away the soul or the mystery or what makes it interesting, right? Yeah. But at least it seems like to me that it's just like a never-ending process. Like there's always something to learn and continue to be curious about. And it's funny, yeah. If you update your priors and you're not stuck to, if you're open-minded enough to all the different possibilities that are out there, and you get this new information, yeah, you just keep, like you said, if you're a robot, you just say, okay, well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
And you
that's
just
interesting.
update and you move on, and
That's it.
you've
That's it. All,
changed how you
yeah.
view the world. Yeah, it's fine.
But I'm the world's most amazing robot. I thought I was a meaty robot. Now I'm a metallic robot. Great. Who cares?
Yeah,
My list of things I was going to do, the amazing things I was going to do, still nothing's canceled.
yeah,
Still right there.
yeah,
I'm still going to go do those things.
yeah.
So that's what I wish. I don't know how convincing any of this is to anybody, but that's one thing that I really wish people would internalize.
Mm,
There's so much both personal and social loss of loss of meaning. I think is the best way, as Vervecki says, around all of this kind of stuff, and that's the last thing I want to contribute to.
mm. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole fascinating route we could go down too, because I feel like, let's just say this, like if that new information would lead you down this kind of nihilistic path, then I kind of feel like you were probably going to go down that path
Yep.
anyway.
Yep. One
I
hundred
mean,
percent.
yeah, it's sort
100%.
of, you're using it as a reason to get stuck in a vicious cycle potentially. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's really interesting. But actually, I think this, where I was going to go to next anyway, and it's in this paper and the next paper as well. You had this concept called play the hand you're dealt.
Mm.
And you, I mean, you're using this very, how should I say it, materially. You're talking about the cellular collectives that can carry out different steps with its sort of second order functions. It's not, they're far more, let's say, malleable and far more, they have more open-ended kind of strategies for accomplishing their goals. Can you talk to us about that and what that, I think the acronym is PhD, so play the hand you're dealt.
Yeah. Well, let's just start with a specific example. So you take a salamander egg, and there's a certain tricks you can do to increase the chromosome count within the number of the number of copies of the genome that are in there. And so when you do that, let's say we increase, instead of 2n, you can make 4n, 5n, 6n, and so on. So as you do that, the embryonic cells get bigger and bigger. The salamander stays the same size. If you take a cross section through a kidney tubule, which normally is made of, I don't know if you can picture this, but like 6 to 8 cells that work together to form this kind of like long tube, they get bigger and bigger, but the animal stays the same size and the tubule stays the same size. So what this means is that fewer and fewer of these larger cells participate in each tubule, right? And so far, so we have two amazing things so far. Number one is you've got the wrong number of chromosomes. Fine, you're still a good salamander. Amazing. Number two, your cells are the wrong size. No problem. We manage the cell number to make up for this difference in cell size. You're still a good salamander. Number three, if you make the cells absolutely gigantic, and these are, I think, 6 or 8 and newts, I don't remember exactly. What happens is there's not room for even 2 cells to be there. So what happens is one single cell wraps around itself and leaves a hole in the middle to give you that same tubule. Okay. Wow. Aside from the whole issue, so what it is it's using different molecular mechanisms. In the first case, it was cell-to-cell communication. In the next case, it's cytoskeletal bending. You're using different molecular mechanisms in the service of an anatomical large-scale goal. That's a kind of top-down causation, super interesting. But for our purpose, more importantly, look at your job as a salamander. You come into this world, you can't tell how many chromosomes you're going to have. You don't know what your cell size is. You don't know how many cells you're going to have, because people have done that too. You can take away cells, you can add cells. You don't know any of that stuff. You need to be able to, your goal is to be able to make a good salamander no matter what you start with. So that's within the limits, obviously. I mean, all of these things are not, infinitely stretchable, right? So